All right, he's on camera, he's got his microphone on, and here he is, Larry Kudlow, who's the National Economic Council Director. Good morning, Larry. Great to have you again.
Morning, Stu. Appreciate it.
Now, what's this about the Federal Reserve? I'm not referring to Herman Cain. I'm referring to the state of the economy and what the Fed's going to do with rates. We've got a strong jobs report, so surely you can say goodbye to any chance of a rate cut. In fact, you might be looking at a rate increase. What do you say?
I don't think so, Stuart. With all the greatest respect of our long relationship, I don't think so. Look, we have a point of view. The president has a point of view with which I concur. And that point of view is that the Fed went too far. And we're concerned not about the immediate economy looks good. Today's jobs were good, wages were good, hours worked, all good. In fact, interestingly, you know, the first quarter is always the softest quarter because they don't fix the winter seasonal adjustments. It's a lot like last year. Looks like we're repeating the pattern of last year, you know, 2% plus in Q1, and then we'll get to 3% for the whole year. Okay, great, terrific, absolutely right. Tax cuts and deregulation and trade reform are all working. Now, here's the point. I don't want threats. I don't want obstacles. There's a global slowdown. There is no inflation to speak of in the system. In fact, the inflation rate is coming down, not going up. And consequently, we are concerned, you know, between the target rate and the balance sheet activity, that central bank, which is independent, these are our points of view. I'm not storming the ramparts here or anything like that. I'm just saying we think they went too far. A lot of market participants and investors agree with us. Futures markets are, in fact, pricing in a lower Fed funds rate. So this is precaution, Stu. Let me just get it out. This is a precautionary view on our part. We have not had a strong economy like this in several decades. I don't want any threats to it if possible.
Okay, but is the president politicizing the Federal Reserve, making it overtly political by suggesting Herman Cain and Stephen Moore to be board members?
Well, look, you know, presidents have been appointing Fed board members for years and years and years and years and years. When I was first here under Reagan, he made some outstanding appointments. That's the way of expressing his philosophy. He's absolutely entitled to that. I remember we put Wayne Angell and Manley Johnson on the Federal Reserve Board, and, you know, they had a somewhat different philosophy than perhaps what the Fed had. Nowadays, you know, what's in my head here, more people working, you know, like today's jobs report, more people working and prospering and improving their wages and their job training. You know, you're worried that that'll cause the Fed to raise rates. You know, Stu, I love you, but that's the old way of thinking. Growth is good. Growth and more people working does not cause inflation.
I know, but
what we want is a nice steady dollar. Prices, inflation is actually coming down.
So you put
We're in a
your
supply-side economic recovery.
So you put your guys onto the Federal Reserve, and you politicize the Fed, and the president gets his way with the Federal Reserve and diminishes its independence.
I don't buy it. We're not trying to damage the Fed's independence. The Fed will act on its own timetable. These are our views, our policy opinions. The president's entitled to it. Look, lots of presidents appoint members. I don't know why you think this is political. Here, let me just for a second, Stu, just for a second. You know, you're one of my favorite broadcasters. Just for a second, I heard a Phillips curve. I heard you say, well, too much growth, they have to raise rates. Now, that is an attitude that I don't share, okay? I believe more people working with productivity on the heels of supply-side tax cuts and deregulation is actually going to increase growth and reduce the inflation rate. And I think some of the old school thinking in some of the old econometric models in the central bank could use a little fresh air, a little different opinion about that.
Okay.
That is not politics. That's a policy view. That's a philosophical view, and a very important one. And let me say quickly, I don't think necessarily that the names that are being discussed are really going to be out of sorts with the Fed leadership. I've heard the chairman say these things. I've heard the vice chairman, Rich Clarida. You know, this is a new era, and you have new policies to rebuild the economy.
I've got to get to China
President Trump
trade.
has every right in the world to make his appointment.
Yesterday afternoon, went into that meeting. The Chinese vice premier held the meeting with President Trump. We went into it thinking the president's going to announce a summit meeting. He did not. Does that detract from the optimistic point of view that we're definitely going to get some kind of deal? Is that optimism misplaced?
No, I don't think it's misplaced. I mean, it has to be a realistic optimism. I tried my best, you know, on Deep Background to say to reporters that there was no summit. It's always been a wonderful... One of the great things about this is I keep hearing about deadlines that don't exist and meetings that were never scheduled. Here's I think the absolute key point, and the president made this point at least twice in the Oval yesterday. I was there. First, we have to have a great deal on trade with China, a deal that benefits American farmers and workers and technology and so forth, and hopefully a deal that will help China. That deal has to be enforceable. It has to cover all the areas that are under discussion. At that point, when we get a great deal, if we get a great deal, then in all likelihood, there will be a summit between the leaders, which I reckon might be something like a signing ceremony. But the key point is, first, we need a great deal. And when we get that, then we will move, obviously, swiftly. But there are questions. Look, the talks were productive. We made good headway. That's what the president said. That's what Ambassador Lighthizer said. There are some things we've gone further. This is very optimistic. We've gone further than we ever have before in negotiating some of the difficult issues. And in general, by the way, the scope of these talks is like nothing else we've ever had in the history of U.S. China relations. So these are very good things. Now, having said that, there are still unresolved issues. As we talk here, deciding the fate of the world, they're over in Bob Lighthizer's office at USTR deciding the fate of the trade agreement. They are discussing it, and we'll discuss it, I think, most of today, and probably next week at the senior principals level. There'll be more discussions by teleconference and whatever. So the key point I'm trying to communicate, Stu, is not a deadline. It's a good trade deal, what the president calls a great deal for America. And at that point, people will begin to figure out how to schedule a meeting between
Larry,
the two leaders.
Are you going to tell us categorically there will be a China trade deal of some kind at some point?
You know, Stu, that's an unanswerable question, like any negotiation. You know, baseball, free agents, who knows?
Well, do you think it's highly likely?
They're talking. I will say this. Personally, I'm going to play this from the cautiously optimistic side. I think the president was cautiously optimistic yesterday. I think Vice Premier Liu He was cautiously optimistic. There was a lot of good feeling, a lot of goodwill in the Oval Office and the negotiations. We had a lovely dinner last night at the Hay Adams Hotel with beautiful views. That put everybody in a very good mood. But I can't make a flat-out prediction, Stu Varney. You know I can't. That's why you're asking me. That's why I love to come on your show. I can't make that prediction.
Okay. Can I just ask you this one? What about Jamie Dimon? I want to talk about the American dream. He was talking about the American dream. Frankly, I've lived it. I'm the beneficiary of the American dream. But he says the American dream is fraying. What do you think?
I think the American dream is recovering. I'm a friend of Jamie Dimon's, and I'm a fan of Jamie Dimon's. And I think he's a good person, great banker, smart guy. But I think, you know, the change in administration, the Trump administration is a break, Stu, frankly, of many past administrations, both Democrat and Republicans. And I come back to this phrase I use. President Trump is rebuilding the economy. He has ended the war on business. He has ended the war on success. He believes you should be rewarded for successful work effort and investment and risk-taking. He strongly wants people to go out there, take a whack at the ball. Let's start up the new businesses, which is the most powerful part. We want to expand our technology. We've created an incentive-driven economy. We don't believe with the socialists in the opposition party who want gigantic takeover of health care, destroy our energy systems and so forth, bankrupt the country and take our freedoms away into poverty. We don't. That's not us. That's not us. Nothing close to that. So, in terms of the American dream, the results are showing people are pretty happy with the economy. Most of the polls are in the mid-50s on the economy. That's pretty darn good. And I think we are in a rebuilding and rebounding situation. And I think, Stu, last point, I think morale is improving. I think, to go back to my pal Arthur Brooks and some of the work he's done down through the years, I think the happiness quotient is rising, and I hope it continues. And by the way, we don't want any policy interference with that. We are going to stay the course. There was a guy once upon a time had an old TV show, Free Market Capitalism is the best path to prosperity. We are free enterprisers. We are free enterprisers, not socialists. And I think that will revive the American dream.
I just need to get this in because the president tweeted this morning about if Mexico does not bring the illegals back and put them where they came from, America will force to impose 25% tariffs on all cars made in Mexico coming over to us. Now, can you do that under the USMCA rules?
Well, I don't know every legal technicality, but let me just tell you, I was in with the president yesterday a lot, talked to him. I spoke to him last night before I came on the air this morning. He is quite serious. Now, he does see in recent days improvement on the Mexican side, and so the asylum seekers and, unfortunately, the drug smugglers, the drug traffickers is a gigantic problem with fentanyl and whatnot coming in. He is dead serious. Right now, he will not invoke the closing of the border. Okay. Right now, he says, and he said this to me, but he will give Mexico a chance in good faith and see if they can do it. And if they do it, fine. If they don't do it, then the point you just made or quoted is right. He will not hesitate to take stiff, stern actions, whether it's tariffs or border closing. This is a humongous problem. What are we up to, 100,000 people now per month coming over the border? And, it's interesting, too. The president is so keen on stopping the tragedy of the drug smuggling. Fentanyl, for example, being one, but not the only one. And this is a key part of this. But the disarray, the breakup of border security cannot last. We have to have a wall. We have to have security. We have to have immigration reform. What he's saying is, we're going to give you a respite here. He's not going to take immediate action to close the border or the ports of entry and so forth. But, if that doesn't improve on the Mexican side, then he will take action. And as somebody who's been around with him now for over a year, I can tell you, when he says it, he means it.